So Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on this show. I'm really, really happy to have you here.
Pleasure to be with you.
Great. So how was your day?
It's it's going pretty well. It started off pretty. Today is my actual day off, so
Okay.
normally on days that I have off, it's like more of a sleep-in thing. But this morning I was like, nah, frantic. I gotta clean my apartment and everything's like, because
Yes. Great.
when I took my trip, I recently took a trip a couple days ago, and my sister ends up calling me before I end up boarding my plane, and she's like, "Do you want a cat?" And I'm like, um, "Sure, I guess." And so now we're the proud owners of like a 4-week-old kitten,
Oh,
and
that's so amazing.
like, oh, great.
That's awesome. I'm really happy. I'm pretty sure that you'll be a good mom for a cat. So, Jennifer, thank you so much, first of all, for coming on this show. And I'm so excited, and this is like a dream come true for me because I'm talking to one of the biomedical engineers, almost like another end of the world. Because you are in Colorado, I'm in India, and yeah, this is so many differences we both have, like culturally, educational way, and another so many ways. So I'm like super excited, yes, to start this show. And tell me, why did you like started to as a biomedical engineer? Why did you choose that?
So back then, I never really knew what I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I was growing up, I was more like the one that just pushed everything off to the very last minute. And I always, even though I used to always be asked by my teachers, I was like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Every kid gets asked that question, right? So I would always say, well, there's so many choices out there. I really don't know what I want to be. Kind of like pushing the envelope to the very last minute. Then comes graduation, and I get asked again, and I'm like, I really don't know. I still don't know, and I really don't have an interest in it. I'm not saying I want to be one of those people that want to sit on the couch on their parents' house all day, but I really don't know what I really want to do
Right.
with my time. Um, and I was approached by my high school teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and he taught engineering at the time. So I went to like kind of like a chapter school where they kind of teach you. You could take classes which are a little bit more career based.
Right.
So at my high school, they had two classes. They had engineering and they had health sciences. Health sciences was more towards the medical nurses, doctors, more towards that type of medical staff. And then engineering was more civil, structural, mechanical, um,
Yeah, like other
more
kind of fields.
robotic and
Yeah,
all that
yeah,
type of stuff,
yeah.
electronic, that sort of thing. So he asked me, well, maybe we can kind of mix the two together. Have you ever heard of biomedical engineering? And I'm like, no, I haven't, never have in my entire life. He's like, well, let me do this because I'm a teacher and you're the student. I gotta have to kind of make this educational.
Uh-huh.
So do me a favor and write me a paper on it. And in the event that you get an A, I will go ahead and see if I can arrange for you to talk to a college recruiter. And if you're interested, you like what you find, then I'll get you started on signing up for a degree program so that you can get started. I'm like, okay, fair enough. So that's when I started looking on the internet and like looking at other things to kind of get some information, of course, for my assignment, but then again for myself too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Being a high school student, everyone asks the same question: how much do they get paid?
Yeah,
Because
of
of
course.
course, when they get, yeah, right. You want to make sure that after you graduate college, you're actually going to be able to pay off all those loans that you have to
Right.
accumulate over time. So that was one of the questions I've had. Another one was, well, where exactly do I work, right? Um, so I started doing research on that. Um, what type of education will I have to acquire? Are there any associations or anything like that I could probably get involved in? Will my day-to-day look the same every day, or will it kind of change? That sort of thing. So I wrote my paper. I ended up getting an A or B. I can't remember. But I ended up getting a good grade on it. And then he decided, okay, well, let me go ahead and reach out to a college recruiter, since you kind of seem to show some interest, and that's how everything kind of started and trickled down.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So, like, how was your whole, I think 4 years is the timeline, right? In the Bachelor's of Science for Biomedical Engineering over there?
That's right.
Yeah. So,
here in
like,
the States, it's a bachelor's.
right, right. So how was your whole experience? Like, what kind of subjects you have had, and like, do you have any projects initially, like from the first year itself, or like maybe later on from second year, third year? What was your like whole syllabus or course structure?
Gotcha. So, most of the core courses were more electronics, a lot of theory. We actually had we did have some core biomed courses that kind of stood out, and were necessary for the degree completion, but they were more towards theoretical concepts.
Right.
So biological sensors, and how they integrate with the mechanics of a particular device, or how human anatomy and physiology, how does the device actually correlate to finding out certain pieces and helping doctors and medical staff find out certain information about the human body, like pulse oximeters and everything else. One of my professors actually got a little fancy. It's one of her famous projects. She's actually retired now, but she loved to actually have us build our own pulse oximeter. Oh. So my first project was to build a pulse oximeter with normal resistors and, a breadboard, everything, power supply, oscilloscope, so that we could actually see the pulse waveform on the screen. It was actually really cool. I was like,
I know, right?
Oh my God. And she set it up to where like all the resistors were lined up real nice. The actual reflective diode would actually blink. So every time it would get a reading, it would actually shine red.
Yeah.
It'll blink. That's pretty much it. Other than that, most of my projects were right after I started, during my internship and everything.
Oh, okay. So you had your internship during like what, third year or fourth year? Or was it?
My internship was more towards my final year.
Okay.
I started when I was in late junior, but then it lasted throughout my senior year. I did have some issues with completing my degree, so it took a little longer than 4 years. So I'm one of those like graduated seniors. But eventually I kind of got back into the groove of it, and I ended up getting everything settled. So
you started your internship like late junior year, and that was like most probably with hospital, right?
Yes, that is correct. So I started my internship with a company called Universal Hospital Services here in the States. They cover all 50. So basically they offer a couple of different services. I ended up getting in line with one of their 360 accounts, which basically means that the hospital signed a contract with the company saying, hey, we have equipment here and we do not have on-site biomed staff to take care of it. So would you be so kind as to contract some individuals out, and so that they can report to our hospital as a normal day-to-day, kind of like if they were in-house, and take care of all of our medical equipment that's under a particular contract.
Right.
And then our coverage will be based on the type of coverage for that particular equipment. And then that would be in the midst of coordinating with department managers saying, okay, so you have this piece of equipment that you want covered. Well, do you want us to just PM that piece, or do you want us to cover any repairs in case it breaks? Do you just want us to manage all the paperwork for it? So after you evaluate what type of coverage a piece of equipment is under, let's say it's only for repairs, that you're only allowed to touch it for repairs, then you would know how to best take care of the equipment based on what the customer is requesting. So that was fun. That lasted for about a year. And then during that year, we kind of had several management changes. So I had several different reports to kind of like reporting directors.
Okay.
And after a while, it managed to ease out. And once we hired our new site manager, we were able to promote me over to full-time. So then I went from internship to full-time.
Oh, that's
with the
amazing.
same account.
That's amazing. I also want to know, like, like in India, there are so many companies during the internship, they don't pay to the student. Is that the same case over there in Colorado? Like, even if you are a student and you are doing some kind of internship, so they are not even paying you a basic amount, or they might be interested to pay you because you are providing some kind of service as well as you are learning something?
So I guess that kind of depends on the actual person that hires you. There are companies out here that take care of you and they actually pay you for your service. So they actually pay you as if like you were working for them full time.
Okay.
So instead of paying directly to the school for the internship course or anything like that, like a tuition reimbursement type of thing, they would issue you out your own paycheck.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So for me, it was more on the latter half. It was a transactional thing where I would receive a paycheck, and then if I chose to use that for schooling, I'd be able to do so. If I chose to use it for something else, I had that right too.
Oh, wow.
And there's other companies out here that do something similar. It all depends on who you land with.
Right. But I think for me, as far as I understand, and as far as, like, since I have been working with a company from almost 3.5 years now, and I have been also worked with a hospital in the past. So I think if you're a student and if you are, providing some kind of service, I think we expect that, some kind of basic amount should be paid to the students, because it will boost them so much, because even though they are providing very less service or they are learning something, but then also they are getting paid for that. So I think for me, it seems to be a quite good approach to have more students on board and do the training, and they can understand more about how actual industry work in biomedical engineering, maybe, or how hospitals work, or private companies work in the terms of sales or service industry. What do you think so?
I would agree with you, but I've been on the other end to where I've worked for the financial aid department at the college I went to. So I've been pre-exposed to so many different things, as I don't want to.
In the terms of financial matters, that how difficult it is to, like, pay even the little bit amount, is it something like that?
I mean, to me as a student, I mean, it's really up to you to even pick up your internship based on, certain particular terms. If it's a paid internship to where you end up getting a paycheck at the end, then you as a student have to be responsible in using those funds responsibly.
Correct.
If you decide to use them for school, that's on you. That shouldn't be on the company's responsibility to have to pay an additional because you're already offering a service and they're paying you for what they think that it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're thinking that you're doing more work than what you're getting paid for, then I would think it would probably be more reasonable to search for a different internship at the time.
Correct.
Or seek another internship. Some unpaid internships actually sponsor you and would not pay you directly, but actual like either straight towards the school, or their goal is to actually get you the experience necessary. Because even though you're not getting monetary funds, for students have to also realize that just because they're not getting paid for what they do, essentially they're still getting a good asset out of the company,
Right.
because they're getting that experience that they won't normally get even after they graduate. Because imagine you just finished walking, you have your degree in hand, and you're walking up to the recruiter saying, I've got my degree. And the recruiter says, excellent, what else? And you're like, this is all I got. Some recruiters are very scared to give you that initial opportunity, because what they're looking for is someone who's already experienced, and they don't have to wait on building up a person in like training costs and education and other matters. They only have to really provide enough funding to teach you the basics, put you through basic computer-based training. So all of your annual HIPAA compliance training, handling of PHI, basic employee handbook training, that type of thing.
Right.
Instead of, okay, this person's straight out of school, we have to now teach them to do
Everything
this,
from scratch. I think
protocol. Yeah.
So I think like my next question is kind of connected to internship and the experience you get once you passed out from the university. Did you had that privilege to have instruments on premises of your university while you were doing your studies? And before doing your internship, did you had any chance to work with instruments directly?
Unfortunately, no. Most of our equipment that was kindly donated to our hospital or our class was already broken. So they were like, well, if you want to mess with it and see if you can fix it, you're more than welcome to do so.
Right.
However, if you can't, then that's fine too. We never really truly had equipment donated to us to where it's working and then we can just bug it and troubleshoot problems that way.
Right.
So literally my education, once I started my internship, was just that. As soon as the equipment came down and the clinician put the work order in and you respond, that's how I learned. That's literally me picking up the phone and getting tech support on the line and saying, hey, I have this problem, can you help me?
Right.
SOS.
Right. Right.
Matter of fact, when I was working for my internship as well as full-time with UHS, there was a small program that the hospital will do for high school students that were kind of in the same boat that I was. They would have high school students come over to our National Training Center, which was basically like a famous gym. So we had Olympians and everything train at this National Training Center. So that was kind of pretty cool. And what they would do is they would kind of split the hospital into several different departments and tour the high school students around. And one of the departments was biomedical engineering.
Okay.
So what we used to do is we used to have a presentation, like a PowerPoint presentation, and run over how sensors work on different types of equipment, show them how the equipment actually works and interacts with patients, what they do. And it was like a variety of different equipment. We had like a patient monitor, and we had test equipment so that they could actually see what we use to actually verify some of the stuff. And some of the stuff from our ORs. Our OR was kind enough to dedicate more of their assets over to us if they had spares. Different things, at least so that they could see it without actually being patients. You know?
Of course, of course. No one has to be patient, I would say.
No.
Yeah. But I think it's a pretty cool experience to have when you are, in a hospital, because the environment is so different than the usual one which you get an education during your bachelor's degree. It's a new environment to understand, and pick that environment to your daily life. It's a dedication to have. Hands down to all the people who are working in this domain, be it a biomedical engineer, doctors, nurses, whoever is working. And especially during this time of COVID, the pandemic has created a havoc. Hands down to all of them, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, so like my next question is, how was your experience in this field from past 5 years? You have been working in the same field. You have like dedication to work in the same department, because I don't think so many people stick to their basics and work towards it. Very less people in this particular industry be an engineer, be a biomedical engineer, and work as a biomedical engineer. So how was your experience?
Well, I guess you're right. I have to give you credit on that one because it's totally based on the person. Yeah. For me, it was a little bit different. The mindset I had coming into this was, since I already work as a vendor, I service somebody else.
Right.
That was my main goal. That's probably what made me stay with my company so long, was because I viewed it that I wasn't really working for my company. I was working for my customer, just wore my company's name and logo every day. So it literally, walking up on those floors and seeing how, you're constantly thanked, you're constantly getting all this great feedback from the customers end because you're doing them a service and they actually enjoy having you around. Because to be honest, that's what I'm trying to accomplish at my current hospital now. Is our biomedical department is a great department. They do a fantastic job, and there are some nurses and other staff members that know who they are, or at least who their manager is. They don't really know the technicians that well, right. Except for the ones that they see on the regular basis. So having that familiarity with your customer and with the hospital, with the staff members, the doctors, even the people who sweep the floors. Everyone is important in a hospital, and you want to make sure that when you go to work every day, you feel that friendliness, that you don't want to feel, okay, I'm getting up in the morning and I'm heading to work again. That then drag your feet all the way to your car, make that long hour drive, and then have to take that long hour drive back. It gets tedious, and you end up wearing yourselves out.
And you end up this is a pretty hard job. It's a pretty hard job, actually. Working in a hospital, I remember so properly when I had my internship. I had to go there's a everyday routine checkup rounds we have as a biomedical engineer to check all the instruments working in every kind of departments, like ICU, operation theater, or any general wards and special wards. So when I was there, I had this experience in the ICU because there were 20 beds, and everyone was you feel connected with the patient somehow. I don't know why, but that was pretty intense job to do. And one of the day I remember I was in my cabin, and someone some patient from the ICU passed away, and there was a whole different experience. I mean, I don't even it doesn't go out of my mind whatever I do, but that's a pretty intense job to do. I'm pretty sure, because I have been there, and I have so many friends who are working in a hospital. So it's a pretty intense job. So I'm sure that, as you said, it's perfectly correct that whoever works in that department, it is extremely intense and extremely appreciable job they are doing.
Yeah, I've had some of those moments myself as well. Between walking in an OR and the anesthesiologist is either A,
Right.
happy to see you, or B, like ready to throw something at you because their equipment isn't working and they're already
Right.
frustrated as is because the doctor is like, just hurry up and get this working. And you're already in that intense environment. The patient is sprawled out on the table. They've already got the drapes up. Oh my gosh. And they've called literally like every department, and like all of a sudden you look behind the patient's drapes and you see the manager for SPD in the back trying to help out because she's been, she used to work for the OR before she ended up transferring departments over. It's a mess. It's like a giant flop.
I agree with you. I mean, even if you know the basics that, this thing can get fixed like this, I know this, but because of the pressure, sometimes we just forget it. We cannot even do the basics. Yeah. So I agree. Yeah. So how is your daily routine over there in the hospital where you are working currently?
So in the morning, usually what I do is I do rounds. So I sweep through the floors and look for broken equipment, because sometimes during night shift, staff members at a hospital, especially our hospital, they didn't have a lot of individuals who were on staff at the time. So as opposed to day shift where you have individuals who have time to put work orders in and report equipment that was down, night shift doesn't have that. They are working at half the capacity most of the time because they just don't have the staff. So you sweep the floors, see if you can find anything that's broken or has like a fix me tag on it. And trust me, I have like a slew of photos I could like shoot your way of like different notes that they would place on this equipment. It's so cute. Matter of fact, one time I went to Mother Baby, our OB department, and they had a Dynamap that was in a corner, and it literally said, "Fix me, I'm broken," and it had like a little sad face on it with like tears coming down the sides. I was like, oh my God, you people are crazy. But it's like so cute. I had to take a picture before.
But that doesn't make your day because you have to anyway fix it.
And I was like, why didn't you just put a work order? She's like, you would have seen the sign first. And I'm like, yeah, probably.
Okay, great. So at the same time, as a biomedical engineer, I'm pretty sure you must have to train the different kind of staff members who are dealing with the instruments every day. Because we as a biomedical engineer, we cannot apply that particular instruments on the patient directly, because that has to be go through by doctors or by staff, nurse staff, or whoever the concerned person is. So are you training somebody, or have you been trained somebody? How was your experience in that department?
So when it came down for education, I'm actually really adamant about it. I'm a pro advocate for making sure that, hey, the reason why most of the stuff actually breaks is because people just don't know how to use it.
Correct.
So whether it be our responsibility because the hospital doesn't have enough funds to allocate the OEM or the sales rep doesn't have the time to come out. It's our job to make sure that they know how to use the equipment properly, how to maintain it while it's on the floors, until we see it for either A, its next repair, or B, for preventative maintenance. So I coordinated a couple of projects during my years in education and making sure that they're using their telemetry in the right appropriate way. We had a lot of repetitive calls for bed use because we had so many different types of beds in the hospital, and turnover was big. So when you have new staff members, you know, nurses don't go to school to learn medical devices. They learn how to deal with people.
Correct.
So when they get hired in the hospital and they go through their education and they start up on their floors, there are some nurses who are nice enough to tell them, hey, this is how the equipment works on our department. And then there are some nurses and staff members that are like, okay, it's your day one, you're going to figure it out the same way I did by yourself. Right. And we definitely don't want them to feel that way. That's how the turnover happens. Well, if they're not going to take care of me, then we're going to leave. So that's when we stepped in and we offered education on how they can use their beds, how they can operate their structures appropriately, how they can operate even some of their OR equipment. I even noticed that during cases, in the middle of cases, we'd have staff members who were told to do something on a piece of equipment. The doctor is getting frustrated, so they call biomed because they just think that the equipment just isn't working, or they're so frustrated that they'd rather have someone who they think is more of an expert get the job done, so that way they don't have to feel like they're being weighed on by someone else. They want to push responsibility on somebody else, which is fine. So I had the opportunity to go up during a case for a reverse vasectomy, and they were having issues just operating a microscope. They didn't know how to get an adequate picture on the lens so that they could take pictures of it so the doctor could review it later. And I don't know if you or any of your viewers know this, but in order to deem a reverse vasectomy successful, you have to be able to see the presence of the little swimmers on the end. So if you can't see them, you don't know whether or not the whole case, the whole hour and a half case was even successful. Correct. So the doctor's kind of like, all right, I kind of need this because we're done. We're ready to sew this patient up. We can't keep going because we have another case after this. I have to jump on another OR, and I kind of need to know whether or not I can move on or I have to reschedule the same patient to come in for, a second visit. And, they were getting frustrated. I responded to the call, and after a few adjustments on the scope, we found out that the case was completely successful and we were good to go. We were able to sew up the patient and be done with it for the day. So that was pretty good. That one was a win-win for everybody.
That's awesome. I'm pretty sure you must be knowing so many different kind of instruments because individual, there are 10 systems in our body. So I think that all the 10 different system has zillions of different instruments to work upon us. So how many instruments can you name it right now in a minute?
Oh my God. Do you have a timer on? Are you serious?
Yes. Okay. Go on.
Okay. So you have your GE Dynamap, you have your Stryker Neptune, you have a Savvy Scout, you've got your Kangaroo E-pumps, you've got your Philips patient monitoring, your MP series and your MX series. You have GE Apex Pro transmitters for telemetry. You've got Smith Medical PCA pumps. You've got Hospira Plum pumps, Pump Pluses. You've got good Lord.
15 seconds to
Has
go.
it been a minute yet? Shoot.
The basics ones, the monitors, the infusion pumps, the etc.
You got your ventilators, different types of ventilators. You got your G5s, Galileos for Hamilton. You have your Dragers. You have anesthesia machines. You have a Via, I think. Your Aspires, your Stevas, Jager, Narcomeds.
Wow. There are so many.
All right.
We cannot.
I hope
everyone.
that was enough for a minute because I'm literally I don't even know.
But that was awesome. That was awesome. Great. So now the main part which I really want to highlight and I really wanted to talk is the CFBIS, which I have been working from I think a couple of years now. That is Central Florida Biomedical Instrumentation Society. How is your experience and how did you come across to this society who have been working like aggressively in this field? And what's your role and how are you like dealing with people and what is it exactly?
So CFBIS, or the Central Florida Biomedical Instrumentation Society, is a biomedical society that's based out of Central Florida. And their main goal is to provide resources for biomedical engineers in Central Florida and the Space Coast. Mm-hmm. So over the years, since we started back in 2017, that's a little bit debatable. Some people will say 18, but no, we started back in May of 2017.
Okay.
We started out kind of small. So we were commissioned by our Florida board. Hey, we have a area that's currently not being covered for a societal rain. At the time, Florida had 4 societies. We had one in the south, CFBIS, and then we on the Bay Area, or let's see, I guess the Gulf of Mexico, so on the Gulf Coast. Mm-hmm. And then we also had 2 in northern Florida, one in the Gulf Coast on the very north end, the Panhandle, and then one on the northeast side, so northeast society. Right. Then we tried to centralize everything in Central Florida, but over the years we couldn't really get anything to stick. So in May, we decided to have a meeting in a Golden Corral. And we started discussing options for individuals to invest and sign up for, volunteer opportunities to kind of help rally the troops, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Go out to different hospitals and say, hey, we have this thing starting up. Why don't you attend a couple of our meetings and see if you're interested? We had our first meeting in May of that year at a World of Beer franchise out in Orlando. Uh-huh. And it was pretty successful. We had like nearly 20 to 25 biomeds show up. And it was sponsored by one of our local vendors. So we eventually started to grow gradually. We wanted to make sure that we developed a online presence as well as a in-person, interaction.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we started. We're still growing, and right now we have a member base of about 30 technicians from like 5. So we're constantly looking for ways to expand, constantly looking for vendors out there that can help give us resources, give us training on different types of equipment, different types of aspects, get us certified in the CBET and CRES and all that other stuff that's, you know, Amy proclaims to be a little bit more important than not.
Right.
That type of thing. So that's literally what we strive to do for some of the guys out here in Central Florida.
That's amazing. So, can you like describe one of the meeting where you guys what you do and what kind of questions do you get in a normal meeting of CFBIS?
Oh, yeah. So it all depends on what sponsor we have. Most of our sponsors just want to have a socialite experience to where they just conversate between different biomeds just to get a feel of whether or not their solution will match their customer or their hospital. If not, then they just want the ability to communicate and grab a contact and network with one another.
Right.
If it's not one of those meetings, sometimes we have something that's a little bit more educational, kind of like a lunch and learn, to where our sponsor will bring in a piece of equipment and talk about it. We have a very, very faithful sponsor out in Winter Garden, Injectors Services and Support, that offers kind of like a first look training on contrast injectors.
Right.
So before COVID was a thing, at least in the United States, we actually had the opportunity to go to their facility in Winter Garden and see their warehouse and see where they actually train their own technicians on taking care of this equipment for their customers.
Oh, okay.
And in it, we actually got a presentation on how this equipment works, how to do basic troubleshooting in the event that we get calls for it on the floor, and then how to get a hold of the company themselves if in the event that we want to choose to dispatch them for service. So that's one thing. Other than that, we try to keep it straight and simple.
That's amazing. And I wanted to know one more thing, like if in case someone is from Colorado right now watching this video, how they can approach to your society and how they, can be a member of your group.
Sure. So we actually have a website, CFBIS.org. If you go to that website, there is a membership tab that's on the very top of the screen. You'll click on that tab and it'll kind of give you a synopsis of what it means to be a member. We also have a frequently asked questions page. So in the event that you have additional questions about anything as far as membership goes, you can see if we've already been asked that question, if we have an answer for you. You can always get a hold of us via our LinkedIn page as well. So if you actually look us up on LinkedIn, it's by our full name title. So it's Central Florida Biomedical Instrumentation Society. And you can find us out by our logo, and you can register to become a member right on that LinkedIn page. There's a register button that's right underneath our logo on LinkedIn, and it takes you straight over to our membership application website. So there is an annual cost to be a member, but it's well worth it. We help you out with your resume. I'll take a look at it and actually give you professional advice on where you can gear your resume, so that way when you take it up to recruiters, you can hopefully land the gig. We offer different types of ACI credit courses. So those of us that are CBETs and CRES and HTM professionals that are certified and they want to acquire those credits to report to Amy or the ACI group, we offer courses to help alleviate that and give you stuff to put into your journal and write and jot down. So that way when you go for recertification, you meet your credit limit, like your credit requirements for your recertification. We figured it helps. So members actually get our higher end ACI accredited courses, our 2s and up. And then those of us that just want to be on our mailing list will get anything from a 0.5 to a 1 ACI credit course. If you're interested in just learning more and you're not ready to make that full-on commitment, that's fine too. We understand, especially with COVID. You can join our mailing list. Just email cfbismembers@gmail.com. You'll receive a response back within 48 hours and we'll get you started.
That was amazing. I think everyone who is like watching this video and are in the same place where CFBIS is, surely you can put your details, at least check this page out and check their website out, because it will be extremely helpful if you are new in profession, or maybe you are a person who needs more kind of guidance towards the this particular field. So I'm pretty sure it will be definitely helpful. So please go check this out, and Jennifer will be there to support you as well. So take her guidance. Yes, thank you so much, Jennifer, for that. That was a pretty much everything we can talk about, being in this field and having an experience of this long years. And I really, really thank you so much, Jennifer, for coming on this show and being such a sport and talking about all your experience and how you can help people. If it is from your state or from another land, doesn't matter. But you have explained it in such a great manner. Thank you so much.
No problem. Anytime. I actually enjoyed this experience quite a bit, and I hope that we can use this information to kind of spread more awareness and get other individuals interested and involved. Especially now with this COVID, we need help more than ever. So it's not just medical staff, not just nurses and doctors, but if we have more biomedical engineers with boots on the ground ready to make a difference. If you feel like you want to do something, but you're just not sure what to do, and you're really good with your hands and you're really good with electronics, sign up. We need you. There are jobs everywhere for you. So don't feel like you are in a hard place. Just know where to go. And as long as you network with the right people, that's icing on the cake.
That was amazing. Thank you so much.